All right, what's good, YouTube? This is Boxingwave. Just want to do a quick fight recap with Devin Haney and Regis Prograis. First of all, shout out to all the new subscribers, especially the ones that was here last night. We had a good live commentary. My dad came through. We had a good time last night, so I want to shout out to everyone that came through last night, especially all the people that donated to the video and stuff. And yeah, we had a good time. So let's talk about the fight. It was pretty much a masterclass performance from Devin Haney. You know, I definitely picked him to win on points, but I didn't think it would be that easy. You know, I thought at some points he would probably struggle a little bit, maybe get hit with a good shot at some point, but it never really happened. Regis Prograis just never was able to control the distance or figure the distance out at all, and he really he kind of got exposed in this fight as being one dimensional. You know what I mean? Really, really good fighter. All right, big power. You know, explosive. Very fun to watch. You know, my personal favorite guy at 140 over the years was Regis Prograis, but you know, once he got in there with a certain type of boxer, he clearly lacked in certain areas, and it really got exposed in this fight. I don't think Regis Prograis clearly won a round. You know, I think the closest rounds was probably maybe the first round and the 12th round. But I can't really say that Regis Prograis clearly won a round in this fight. You know, it definitely looked like a shutout to me. All right. He got dropped in the third round. And he even got hurt by Devin Haney a few times. You know, so again, this is why I like to tell you guys we can't base everything off past fights, because when a fighter is stepping up, sometimes that's when we see them at their best. I was recently saying that about Terrence Bud Crawford. I was saying that as well with David Benavidez. You know, we could go back and watch old fights where they get hurt in a shot, like with a shot, but you got to understand when they're preparing for a certain fighter, sometimes you bring out the best in them, and we saw the best of Devin Haney. Plus, he didn't have to worry about draining himself down to 135. He looked stronger. He looked more powerful. He just overall, I mean, he made very few mistakes without making it a boring fight. At least not for me. It wasn't a boring fight. He was still letting his hands go throughout the fight. He was doing a better work on the inside and the outside. The better counters, the better timing, the better footwork, the better hand speed, the better power. He just overall was better than Regis Prograis in every single area. And I can say that after the third, fourth round, I didn't even see the kind of power in Prograis. It looked like from the body shots, the liver shots that he was taking, the punishment that he was taking in the fight, it didn't even seem like he had that same pop in his punches midway through the fight. You know, so he really didn't have a chance. You know, it was similar to the Crawford Spence fight. At least while I'm watching it, it felt like that. I know we didn't get a knockout, and I know Spence took a lot more punishment in that fight. But as I'm watching it, I'm like, oh shit, we might actually get a stoppage here. I know a few of you guys were calling for a Devin Haney stoppage, but as I'm watching it, I'm like, man, this is like a mismatch here. You know what I mean? I didn't think it would be this much of a mismatch. In the talent gap between these two was just too wide. And Devin Haney looks incredible, man. You know, I liked everything. I mean, I really have nothing to complain about. You know, I know some people are going to complain because they probably wanted to see Haney push for a stoppage. But again, he's fighting a pretty durable fighter. I mean, Prograis only got dropped once, and they didn't even count that as a knockdown in his very last fight. You know, it's not like he hasn't fought punches before. He's been in there with punchers, you know, but Devin Haney was clearly the one that busted him up the most in his career, dropped him, hurt him the most. And it was a great performance, you know. I mean, Regis Prograis, I mean, I guess I might as well go into this when it comes to Prograis. He did get exposed simply, and I don't even like to use that word, but the reason why I have to use it here is because he showed us that all he really has is a big straight left hand or overhand left. You know, I think there was no adjustments made. It was no adjustments made from the last fight. And him saying in the face off that they had, like, he's working on things for this particular fight. He's working on boxing better in certain areas. It really goes to show that everything that we've seen from Regis Prograis in the past is everything he had to offer. And being that he just fought two fighters in a row that did well at knowing how to control the range between them, and Prograis, it seems like Prograis really didn't have an answer for either one of those fighters. You know, Zarria, he did bad against Zarria, but we said, oh, maybe he slept on Zarria. You know, maybe because he was fighting in his hometown. You know, maybe we was making all these excuses. Not me specifically, but you know, you got to think sometimes when a fighter is fighting a guy that's more like a tune-up instead of the big fight, sometimes they don't prepare as much. Sometimes they don't gear up and stuff for that particular fight. So when we saw that bad performance, we thought like, okay, maybe he just wasn't prepared for this one, or maybe he just don't know how to deal with fighters that know how to control distance very well. And being that Regis Prograis is more of an outside fighter, being that he has short arms, sometimes you gotta learn how to make the adjustments, and you gotta know how to close the distance. Not every fighter is Kyle Relic that's gonna be coming straight at you. You know, some of these fighters are fighters that you're gonna have to go and close the gap yourself. And Regis didn't have the feet to do it, you know, and he didn't know how to use his lead hand. Wasn't seeing much feints for him. He wasn't doing anything to throw off Haney's rhythm in the fight. And it's part of the reason why he lost so easily. So overall, Regis Prograis, all we saw with him from the past is all we got here. And it just wasn't enough because Haney has a phenomenal jab. Haney is great at controlling distance. And basically, Haney fought a perfect fight. The only way Haney would have lost this fight is but from just being reckless. But even he still was able to take risk and get on the inside and do the better work on the inside. You know, and I guess, you know, something that I stated last night, you're coming off of a win against Lomachenko. Whether you thought he won or not, he's coming off of a win against Lomachenko. Someone that had advantages over Devin Haney. And it was a tougher fight to prepare for because no one has that athleticism that Lomachenko had the feet, the footwork that Lomachenko had. You know, the movement, the speed. He had advantages over Haney, so Haney struggled in certain areas. Plus, Loma was able to hurt Haney at times. But Haney, now moving up in weight, fighting someone that's a lot more flat-footed, that isn't as fast, doesn't have the angles, you know what I mean? It was probably a lot more easier for Haney to deal with this fight. Plus, he's moving up, not worried about being drained. He's stronger now. It was a masterclass, and it looked like a mismatch. It looked like they didn't even belong in a ring with each other. It's like what happened with Taylor and Teofimo Lopez, you know? I mean, you could say that Taylor might have been falling off. Yes, Taylor is coming off a bad performance too when he fought Teo, and a layoff. But, I mean, Teo, these guys moving up from 135, going up to 140, fighting the best at 140. Josh Taylor and Regis Prograis were the two best guys at 140 for some time. And these guys from 135 went up there and outclassed them completely. So, got to give Haney a lot of credit. I mean, he's one of the best fighters in the world right now, officially. You know, there's still more work to be done, but even in his demeanor after victory, I mean, the guy looked like he was sparring, you know, didn't even have any bruises or anything on his face. Even the way he's talking, him and his dad are talking about, you know, moving forward in their career. They're not calling people out. You know, they're at the point now where they're going to be making the fights, you know, and they're going to be, you know, they're talking about 147. They didn't even call out Teofimo or Ryan. You know, they didn't call out none of the other best at 140. They're willing to go where the money is at. You know, they're just trying to make the biggest fights, and that's where they are right now. Now, I would still love to see quality fights because that's all they've been giving us. They've been giving us quality fights for the past several years. There's been quality fights with the Haneys. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I think right now when they say 147, I think that they would go to 147 for realistic, like specific fights that would make the money. So when I think of 147, who am I thinking of? I'm thinking of Conor Ben, possible. I'm thinking maybe Keith Thurman. I don't think it's Boots. I see that Tank's coach put it out there that Haney should fight Boots. It just goes to show, man. All right, first of all, let's before we get off that, but yeah, for 147, I think the only two realistic fights I see Haney getting involved in at 147 is Conor Ben and Keith Thurman. You know, I know Keith is probably gonna fight Stan Jonas, but if there's a way they're gonna leave the option open to fight someone at 147, I think it's gonna be someone that's worth it to them, and they can make the money because that's what they're really about at this point. You know, giving us quality fights, but something that they can make money from too. But let's go to Tank real quick. At this point, and I said this last night, these guys that are fighting at 140, they shouldn't even bother with Tank at this point. No one should be dropping down to fight Tank at this point. You know, Tank has done enough with catch weights and rehydration clauses and fighters moving up to face him. You know, if Tank, I love Tank. I love to watch him fight. You know, I think he's a phenomenal boxer. I say this all the time, but I'm also a realist here. Tank Davis, the fights always got to go his way. The weights, you know, the hydration clause, all these little things that's beneficial towards Tank. These guys are at a point now where they should not put themselves at risk in order to give Tank an advantage. You know, they're putting themselves at risk by taking a fight with Tank. If Tank wants to fight one of them, let Tank move up to 140. You know what I mean? Like, all of this cutting down, Ryan gave up the advantage. I mean, I didn't think Ryan was going to win anyway, but Ryan gave up any advantage he had by agreeing to a 136 catch weight. That's just ridiculous. I don't even think Ryan would have won at 140, but he definitely wasn't winning at 136. You know? Enough of that. These guys have their own names at this point. If Tank doesn't want to fight Shakur Stevenson, who's right there at 135, if he's not trying to get a full title, let Tank do what he wants to do. If he wants to fight Isaac Cruz 3 or 4 times, that's on him. Let him do that. You know, if he wants to cherry pick and continue fighting who he wants to fight, then that's on him. You know, but if he's not fighting Devin, Shakur, Teofimo, those kind of fight, Lomachenko, if he's not fighting those type of guys, then let Tank do what he wants to do. Let him make his money on his pay-per-views fighting whoever he wants to fight. None of these fighters should be putting themselves at risk anymore for Tank Davis. I know Tank is a star, but it's getting ridiculous at this point. And it's clear that Tank and his team, by even putting it out there that they want Devin Haney to fight Boots Ennis, like, come on. Come on, man. Like, you at this point, it's obvious. They have no interest in fighting Devin Haney. And they're not going to fight Devin Haney coming off of that win. All right? They're going to look and fight whoever they know is a guaranteed win, and that's it. You know, I hate to say it, but Tank ain't taking a risk. I think the real risk with Tank was the Pedraza fight. And since then, I haven't seen a real opponent that was a real risk. You know, I think the closest thing to a risk was maybe Barrios doing a 140 thing. But even that, you know, I mean, Barrios can't fight at 140 no more. You know, there's always some kind of weight stipulation going on. There's always. So, you know, Haney at this point, He has a name. He's doing well enough. I don't think he's a superstar, but he's getting close to that point where he could be a top money maker in the sport. He might be already a top money maker, but as far as pay-per-view numbers, I know a lot of people like to go based on strictly pay-per-view buys. And I think Haney's at a point, depending on who he's facing, he could do really big pay-per-view numbers. So if he's looking for big fights at 147, I say Conor Benn, maybe Keith Thurman. At 140, Ryan Garcia, of course. I would love to see a Teofimo Lopez fight. I think that's the fight that should happen. Out of all of the fights, I think the fight between Haney and Teo should happen. That's the best fight that could be made at 140 right now. Teo beat Josh Taylor. Haney beat Regis Prograis. Those are the arguably 1 and 2 guys, whatever way you want to put it. I would love to see a Subriel Matias fight. If it's not those two fight, I would love to see Matias, but I don't know if that fight is going to work because I don't know. I know Teofimo had sent an offer to Matias, but Matias has some sort of hand injury, so I would love to see if they can make something happen between Teofimo Lopez and Devin Haney. I would love to see that at 140 more than any other fight. But I know Ryan has a name, and maybe if Ryan is interested, I doubt it, but if Ryan is interested in taking that fight, make that fight happen. That would be a great fight, But I don't think it's as tough or a difficult fight as Teofimo Lopez. Or vice versa. If Teo wants to fight with Ryan, that's cool, But I know Ryan, right now, Ryan, as good as he is, it's more about the name more so than anything else. It's more about the name. Again, he's still developing as a boxer, much slower than Teo and Shakur and Devin Haney and the rest of the guys in the class. Another name out there who I don't think the fight is going to happen, but he's still a name is Richardson Hitchens. I know he's a very skilled fighter and he's a very slick fighter. And that's another fighter there that a lot of people are not going to want to fight him because he doesn't have a big name and he's not a champion at the time. And, I think Hitchens is going to have to go through a really, really tough fight before getting a big name. Hitchens is going to have to be a guy that's going to have to beat like Subriel Matias in order for maybe one of these other fighters to face him. I think Hitchens right now, even though he's a top dog at the division, no one's going to really want to fight him. But I think he has the skills and the talent to give Haney issues. He's really that good. But at the same time, he's going to have to go through some of the battles that Haney had to go through to get in this position. And he hasn't done that yet. Zepeda was a good win for sure. That's a step in the right direction. But he's going to need another win a bigger win or two in order to get Haney in the ring with him. You know what I mean? It's just the way it's going to work. I'm just trying to be realistic about it. But the fight I want to see with Devin Haney is definitely Teofimo Lopez as number 1 and Subriel Matias number 2. But I'm cool with all the other fights. I think if he does hold on to the belt, I believe Sandor Martin should be his mandatory because I know Martin was the number 1 guy to fight Prograis. All right, so there's a lot of people at 140. There's Jack Catterall. You got Gary Anton Russell. I mean, there's a lot of good fights, but I think Teofimo Lopez is the fight to make now. There's some history between the two. Devin Haney used to come to his fights, call him out into his face, take that fight. And that's it. And I think Devin Haney's done at 135, which he should be. He does no reason to go back down. Not even for Tank. I don't even think Tank at this point is even worth it. It's gonna be too many issues. Who's A side? Who's B side? That fight is just not gonna happen at this point. All right. And for Regis Prograis, he says he wants to be a 3-time champ before going to MMA. So I mean, it's a bad loss, but it's gonna be tough for him. So I think on a bounce back, I think it's time. Like, I know he's 34, but I think it's time for him to work with some other people. I think it's time, because he just does not. I would like for him to get with like maybe like a Robert Garcia as a coach, someone that's gonna push him to close distance better. You know, doubling, tripling up on that jab. You know, giving us some more punch selections. He's just too limited as a puncher. He can punch hard, but he's too limited. His punch selections is too limited. Not enough combinations. Not a strong inside game, and doesn't know how to close distance. You know, he's better at good like fighters that's gonna press him. You know, he's not good at closing the gap. So I think he needs to work on some things. I think he can work on some things, but this team, you know, the guy that was the strength coach that was doing all the parading around leading up to this, where was he? He wasn't even in his corner. It seems like whatever Team Haney said was true. This guy wasn't even a real boxing coach because he wasn't there in the corner. I didn't hear any good instructions from the corner of Prograis. I was waiting for something to happen and I never got it. So I am kind of disappointed in the loss simply because, you know, a loss is a loss, but it's like, what did you prepare to do? You know, and it looked like you were in good shape leading up to the fight, but what exactly was the strategy to win here? Because whatever it was, you did the same exact thing that you did in the last fight. But in the last fight, you was against a guy that wasn't not nearly as good as Devin Haney. So kind of disappointing showing, but he'll get it back. There's still a lot of good fights to be made. I would love to see him, you know, against Arnold Barbosa. I can't expect him to fight Richardson Hitchens right now because that'll be the same outcome. He's just going to be another guy that's going to control you from the outside and with his jab, and you're never going to get to him. You know, Ryan Garcia, I don't think he would fight Regis Prograis, but, you know, I mean, that would be a good bounce back fight if it were to happen. But I don't know who's going to get with Regis because I still don't think most fighters are going to want to fight him unless they're like a good, like, boxer, an excellent boxer. You know, I can see Sabria Matias wanting to smoke with Regis Prograis, and I can see Matias winning that fight just off, you know, his volume. All right, so there's still fights out there for Prograis. You know, Barboza Jr. would be cool. Maybe Jose Ramirez will have the guts to finally get in the ring with him. Maybe Gary Antoine Russell will get in the ring with him. But, you know, we just got to wait and see. But I think some of the options are bad, especially if Regis doesn't change his style at all. All right. Liam Perro just picked up a win against, you know, Montana Love last night. So maybe he could get a fight, get a good bounce back fight. But he needs to change it up, though, man. Maybe fight a Brandon Lee. Maybe fight a Elvis Rodriguez. I'm just going down the list right now. All right. But certain fighters, I wouldn't fight on the first one back if you're having issues with closing distance. Jack Catterall, Richardson Hitchens, you know what I mean? Sandor Martin even. Like, some of these guys might be an issue for Regis Prograis if he doesn't learn how to control distance or close the gap better and move his feet. All right, anyway, that's my thoughts and my review. Please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.